Happy Monday, Broncos country, and what a day it has been already. Lots of news to discuss, lots of Broncos to talk. I'm Brie Maestas here with Zach Seegers and Joey Richards. Guys, how are you?
Doing good. I'm doing really good. Today's topics will be very interesting. Very, very interesting. It was night and day from the prior one last year. I think I left last year's a little like, what the hell's going on? This year, I'm feeling a little better. So, yes, that's good news. Now, there's not a lot. Well, actually, I'm going to save all my comments on the presser until we actually get in the show. But, Bree, yes, I had a really good day. I was about to just go on a whole tangent. And, yeah. Zach, how are you feeling?
Doing well. Excited to be back and excited to be talking Broncos with everybody.
Talking Broncos today. Very happy to be back. Already got comments in the chat if you want to talk along with us or talk at us. Either way, it's your choice. Going over to the Mile High Sports YouTube or Facebook page. Get your questions and comments highlighted. We are live right now because it's a very special Monday episode of Let's Talk Broncos. Big day. Already alluded to it earlier. We obviously had Sean Payton's introductory presser at 11 a.m. I went on air shortly after. What a difference a year makes. Joey, you said it perfectly. Last year, we were in the very same position, but it seemed like a very different seat in the house to listen to the one Sean Payton address Broncos country. It was exciting. I, again, told Zach today on the Fan Cave that I had hesitations. I was a little worried about where this was going, but I left feeling pretty hopeful. And I think there's a lot of hope to be had. I want to hear initial reactions. I thought he did a really great job commanding the room. And I think that poses a really great idea of what's to expect for this team going forward. I will tee you all up with the notion that I'm finally glad it's Sean Payton's team and perhaps not just Russell Wilson's. Sean Payton's going to come in, command the team, command the offense, and do what it takes necessary to turn around the least amount of points in the league to hopefully somewhere above mid-tier. Guys, talk to me a little bit about how you felt about today's presser. First initial reactions.
It was like a lot. So, okay, I don't have many introductory press conference like experience. I will say that last year was like one I really, really focused in on, and it was like Hackett talking about how he's going to bring the energy and like screaming it and acting like he was on pre-workout. This year it was like a little more calm and organized. It felt like, hey, this is our head coach, and knowing Sean Payton going into it, honestly, it was going to be kind of hard for him to screw this up. The excitement around this hire is really, really high. Overall consensus, I would say, is excitement's really high. Have Sean Payton in here. And him just like being able to bring stories up from when he was in the Saints and that success that he had over there, and being able to explain how he had that success, I thought was exciting. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, that was my overarching thoughts. I don't feel like I got a ton of information. Obviously, I mean, he started it off saying that I know all you guys are going to want to ask me about coaches and all that. Here's the thing, I'm not answering it. That's how he kind of started it off. So you aren't going to get too many details, just kind of like some questions here and there. There were some interesting points that would bring up later, but yeah, felt pretty good. Zach, how about you, man?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know, I'm feeling really good about it. It's Sean Payton. I think that was the thing that was just so obvious about it. He kept, I don't know, it reminded me of Mario, who obviously we've had on the show a few times. Listeners might be familiar with him. Will joke about just like the zip down the pants and just moment. And I think that's what wasn't a good enough thud, but I don't know. Hopefully the visual translated.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah, so I don't think that's that crude. But moment, and I think that's kind of what the introduction was. I swear there were like 4 or 5 times where he was like, yeah, we were going to a lot of NFC championship games when I was the head coach, or like, yeah, we were winning a lot of playoff games, we were in the playoffs a lot, and so I know George well, and like all that stuff. And I think that was very enjoyable. I also think he eased some concerns about maybe like the biggest red flags that were around him. Him being maybe a bit of a tyrant, him maybe not being able to work with George Payton. He seemed a little softer. I wouldn't go, as far as to say he seemed like a pushover or anything. I think that would be extreme. But he seemed just a little more chill, a little cooler, tempered maybe. And, his cracking jokes wasn't maybe the hard ass I was envisioning. On George Payton, like we talked about it on the show before, and I think I was kind of saying, like, if Sean Payton's hired, I think George Payton's done. And I don't really think that way now. I kind of get a better vision, especially when you look at all the crossover between the two. Even though they haven't worked together in the past, they do have a lot of mutual ties. I could very easily see George Payton being the new Mickey Loomis, like the new personnel lackey for Sean Payton. He'll be in a reduced role relative to what he was in, but I could see him being the number 2 and maybe not immediately being ousted like I once expected. Those were kind of my big takeaways.
Say it, Zach. You want to. A Payton ship.
Oh
so it's a beautiful
time. This is the third
Payton
time
ship.
We've gone.
I'm really. You're just mad that you got ratioed when you tried to
that shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck off the airwaves.
I just want to point out we've been having a lot of fun today. A great day for Broncos talk. That's why you're all here with Let's Talk Broncos. We are live. Mr. Boggins says he had to search long and hard to find us over on YouTube. That's just nonsense. You got to go on over to Mile High Sports. We're live. We're at the top of the video portion of it. I thought it was really interesting that Sean Payton poked fun at Broncos country in general, as he noted wearing that orange tie back when we all speculated it meant something. Turns out maybe it did. Maybe he was on all of us. So he was in there with that. I also found it really interesting that he joked about clock management and game management, saying, I don't anticipate having the crowd have to do a countdown for the play clock, which I really respect it. I really do, because I think what a melee and circus that absolutely was, although it'll be fondly remembered. I'm looking forward to mid-season in 2023. Yeah, it was hilarious. It was actually very funny. And then when you left, you were like, that is absolutely not okay. That shouldn't be happening. So
and that points to the, sorry, Brie, I thought you were done. That points to the experience part, I think. Just I don't know. He knows how to play the media game. Something that maybe Hackett didn't. Like, Hackett was just always kind of this lovable goofball. And like during Russell Wilson's introductory presser, like flirted with Sierra. It was like, what are you doing, you idiot? Like, why would you think that's a good idea? Sean Payton's not going to make those mistakes. He knows, like, oh, this fan base doesn't like Hackett. I'm not going to be unprofessional, but I can make a few small jabs. His line about the Chiefs-Eagles thing, I'm picking the Eagles, I don't want to see anyone in our division win anything. Like, I think that was prepped, and it was a really good line. You saw it all over Twitter today with reason. His thing about the pocket square, I maybe that was rehearsed, maybe it wasn't. It came off so smooth it felt rehearsed. I feel like he might have been ready for, hey, if anyone asks me about my orange tie, I'm going to tell them, yeah, it was about the Broncos. And not only that, I'm wearing this right now like this because it's about the upward trajectory of our franchise and everything. Like, just that level of preparedness and attention to detail, whether it was like truly prepared ahead of time or he was just able to think on his feet that quickly, I think is the antithesis to what the 2022 Broncos were. And being the antithesis to the 2022 Broncos is a good thing.
Listen, there was a ton of comments where I think, Joey, you said maybe you didn't really get too much information, but I think what we were all able to do is read through some of those lines and anticipate where and what direction Sean Payton was going to go in. I referenced it earlier today, noting that he directly called out the tyranny comment, to where we all really felt that, like, of course you would say that, because you don't want to come in and lambast everyone and say that you're putting your thumb down on everyone. But what I'm hoping that he's going to do is come in and control this team the way Sean Payton sees fit. That's why he was hired for the role that he was. Also interesting to note that it was a foreign concept to him by any stretch of the mean that a personal coach of any kind would be allowed at practice. It's just an interesting, stark difference to the control that I think Sean Payton is going to have over the Broncos. And he will have an answer for things. He will make sure that everything under his watch has an answer for it. And I think that's just really refreshing to see, because Joey, like you said, Nathaniel Hackett was kind of just like, it is what it is. This is what's happening. This is what's going on. I don't really know about that. I don't have strong feelings about that. And kind of waffling through all of the things we were very curious about. I don't think Sean Payton is going to leave us very curious about where he stands with a lot of things, which goes to note he makes his first hire today in Streif, which was not where we anticipated. Joey, I want to say, man, you did not call this hire. Talk to me a little bit about the decision and how you feel about the brand new offensive line coach for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, you know what? So obviously he's a former player and a really good one. He did his entire career in New Orleans, made a few Pro Bowls, was a good player, was a really good player. I even, when I was researching him, I just typed his name into YouTube and his retirement presser came up, and I had typed that in to or I had clicked on that and watched that. And even in that, Sean Payton, if you guys want to see the clip, I posted it on Twitter. Even in that, he was making comments where it's like, hey, if this guy wants to coach, I think he would be a really good one. His years of experience, he was a 6th-round draft pick that got better as his career went on. So I really think that, I don't know, is it lacking in experience for sure. Assistant O-line coach, 2 seasons. Not very much, but I will have to say I do have hope, because Sean Payton has always had good offensive lines with him. The Saints never even hesitated to upgrade that room when needed. Multiple high draft picks, trades. I think it was Max Unger at the time. He was, I think that was right. Center from Seattle they traded for and traded a high pick for him. But I just think that that's something you have to consider. Like, Sean Payton knows this guy really, really well, and then chose him over a Mike Munchak or someone like that. So I think that's stuff to consider. So it's just kind of a wait and see, I would say. Zach, how do you feel about him?
Oh, shoot. I don't know what happened with Bree. I think I'm in full agreement with you here. I was actually trying to get it sorted. I wanted to pull up the clip you shared earlier. Maybe I can get that sorted here in a second. One thing I have that set that might be perfect for oh shoot, maybe it might not be ready yet. I'll figure it out.
30 seconds. Coach, Russell Wilson had a personal coach on the 30 seconds.
One second.
Okay, we're still. I'm just gonna continue to talk about the O-line coach here.
Good God, I drop off the stream for 2 seconds and all hell breaks loose.
I know. Bree, how do you feel about the O-line coach?
I don't think we were anticipating this decision, and I want to apologize. If you have a blood phobia, please turn away in case my nose starts leaking again. I just had like the craziest thing happen. I'm so sorry about that. Just absolutely the worst.
The show is amazing. Wait, we're in toboggans. I love the show.
Like,
it's a great show. You don't know what you're gonna get here.
You can actually find the moment that blood started pouring from my face and I just freaked out. All right, so we're back. There's Boggins is talking about Vampire Diaries in the chat. I'm going to blame him. Whatever voodoo, witchy, hexy stuff that you just pulled off was, it's your fault. As Zach works on a clip, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the offensive line. I think it's interesting. And I think that if a coach to the caliber of Sean Payton feels comfortable enough to bring in someone like Streif, I think that you have to basically trust his instincts here. I don't think he's going to bring in someone for a very important positional group that he doesn't have full faith in their ability and their experience. So we know that he favored him. We know that he thought highly of not only his ability to play the position, but to understand the position, I think is what is going to basically take control of this offensive line. So for me, I wasn't expecting it, but I'm not mad at it. I think it's actually very exciting, and it helps me feel a little bit better about sometimes my biasness against really, really old veteran coaches in the system maintaining that position. I think if you bring in new ideas, a younger variation there, it can only help. So I don't feel terrible about it. I think it's just a very interesting choice. Zach, did you get your sound clip up and ready to go?
It did not in regard to Zach Strief, but I do have a different point I wanted to highlight about Payton that, and about him, kind of something you were highlighting earlier, Bree, laying down the law sub with Russell Wilson. So we'll play that. Sorry, everyone, for that chaos.
Can I say one last thing about Strief real quick?
Yeah, 1 second. I was about to say something about him.
Oh, okay.
I think he's a good hire. I do think the lack of experience is worth highlighting. You don't see people that, like, offensive line coach Joey's just wrote an amazing article on it. It's one of the most important hires on the staff. I think you put offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator above it, and then it's
sometimes
offensive line coach. It's huge. You absolutely need to find a good one. And to go from not having any coaching experience whatsoever to that role in a 2-year period is pretty crazy. By all regards, he was an amazing assistant coach, assistant offensive line coach for the Saints. You see all New Orleans media gushing about him. Obviously, Sean Payton's familiar with him. He saw him as a coach for one season, 2021, and saw him as a player for his entire career. And by all regards, he was a very intelligent player. Went to Northwestern for what that's worth. So I think it's probably a good hire, and I trust Payton's evaluation, but it is a very rapid ascension for someone with minimal experience in a big role. And in an area where the Broncos really, really need someone to be excellent at their job. So it's definitely something to monitor moving forward.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. The experience is something to highlight. It's not, it would be wrong of us not to highlight the experience. 2 years is fast. That's really, really fast. He just got into this. I do also just want to point out about him personally. He gets a lot of credit for helping Penning this year in particular develop his game and become a guy for that offensive line. That's something I saw him get a lot of credit for, which is interesting. So that's a big thing for me, I think. The Broncos desperately need offensive line. And to Zach's point, it is such a big, like he mentioned how big of a position it is. Honestly, like for Sean Payton, him being the play caller, offensive line coach is more important than offensive coordinator, for sure. It really is. So I think that in order, it would go like Sean Payton. In importance, I would go Sean Payton, whoever the defensive coordinator is, and O-line coach. That's probably the way it goes. So this is a really important hire, the second most important hire for this offensive team, so desperately needing to turn it around. So we'll see. I think, like I said earlier, Sean Payton's always had good offensive lines on him. That's one thing for sure. Always had. Something that is big for him. And you see it with all the changes they've made. But so it also just gives me hope that like Munchak and these guys were out there with a ton of experience. And I'm sure he could have got one. Maybe Munchak didn't want to come back, but he could have got a more experienced guy in here. But he chose him. So that makes me a little more optimistic. Still wait and see, but optimistic.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, he had his pick of the litter. I think it's probably a good hire. There's also always the possibility for Munchak to come back. The Trevor Penning point I hadn't heard, and is an amazing one. If you can rein Trevor Penning in enough to like not be blowing out his quarterback's ACLs by tossing defenders into them, that's a positive.
Yeah.
I will say, I think another avenue where maybe you can get some experience to help out Strief, not that he needs it, but that's maybe, like I said, my one concern. One avenue to maybe remedy that is, to Joe's point, you're not worried about finding an offensive play caller. You just kind of want someone to help be a CEO of the offense, help spare Sean Payton's vision. Maybe a Doug Marrone, who isn't going to excite anyone as an offensive play caller, but has a lot of offensive coordinating experience, offensive line coaching experience, head coaching experience, has worked under Sean Payton in the past. Or I don't think it'd be a Mike Munchak, But you can go with a more experienced guy who you trust and you think is great. And maybe he's not the most exciting play caller ever, but that's fine. You've got Sean Payton. You don't need to find the young, exciting wunderkind. Find someone who can do a great job overseeing that offensive unit when Sean Payton's not in the room.
And listen, Sean Payton's not going to place himself into a predicament where he's not able to replicate at least some of the success that he saw in New Orleans with the Saints, because listen, you got to create a lot of protection for a quarterback who tends to hold the ball a little bit too long and maybe can't always see over his offensive line. This is what I'm hoping for, is that he knows exactly what this line and what Russell Wilson needs as protection to be able to stay in the pocket and go through his progressions. What I'm excited about for there is there seems to be an actual plan in place. It's not just hiring your buddies, coming in and hoping all works out. It's going in and putting the right puzzle pieces in place to make this a success, because Sean Payton is not going to want to come in here and screw around and leave anything to chance. It's not like his first opportunity to make some waves and make some changes. It's Sean frickin' Payton. So I think that finally it starts to make a little more sense to me that there's going to be very calculated decisions here. One of those decisions will not be Flores, as Flores is going to Minnesota. That means that the other option here for defensive coordinator is going to be one Sean Desai. We talked about it last week on Let's Talk Broncos. I was excited about the expenditure and the coaching tree of one Vic Fangio. If you missed that episode, you can watch me and Joey on Let's Talk Broncos from Friday. Zach's with us here today. So Zach, I'm going to throw it over to you. How do you feel about Sean Desai basically being the next man up for contention for the defensive coordinator position for the Denver Broncos?
I think he's a slam dunk. I listen to a lot of national NFL, podcasts and media. I read a lot of national NFL media just because I don't like the Broncos media can be very myopic, and I like getting a kind of comprehensive view of things. Everything I have heard from The Athletic, The Ringer, ESPN, like Mina Kimes, Bill Barnwell, like everyone I listen to who watches a lot more Bears tape than me or Seahawks tape than me could not speak more highly of Sean Desai. I think he's a very bright Vic Fangio disciple. He's an up-and-coming head coach, that's where I was going with it. He's an up-and-coming coach in this league that I think is one day going to be a head coach. His work with the secondary is amazing. Like getting Tariq Woolen to play. Most people didn't watch Tariq Woolen's UTSA. I think it was UTSA tape. But man, that guy had a ways to go. He was a very exciting prospect, but there's a reason why, Uwazurike, I'm pretty sure was drafted before him. I think De'Aaron Turner-Yell might have been drafted before him. When Tariq Woolen's this like 10.0 RAS monster. There's a reason for that. He was wildly underdeveloped. And then he comes out and I think he got like player all-pro votes. I don't know if he got all-pro votes, but he got player all-pro votes. Might have gotten all-pro votes. He's going to get defensive rookie of the year votes, I'd bet. Like, that's amazing. Beyond what he does with the secondary, one common knock I've seen on Twitter is he does a bad job with the defensive fronts. I think Seattle's defensive front was underwhelming this year, but look at the talent they had. It's not like, they had their best defensive lineman was Shelby Harris, who prior to the Russell Wilson trade last offseason, I was like, how can the Broncos get out of this contract? I was writing articles on that. He didn't have a lot to work with there. And then when you look at what he did with Chicago, he made Robert Quinn the league's #2 sack artist. In this year, the Seahawks front, for as little talent as they had, and I think most people would agree they didn't have much talent, especially in comparison to a team like the Broncos, Sean Desai's defense created pressure at a higher rate than the Denver Broncos did this year, at a much higher rate. They were top 10 in the NFL. They've never been a Sean Desai defense has never been outside, I think, the top 11 in terms of sacks in a season. So he's lauded for his secondary work, as he should be, but don't sleep on what he does in terms of creating a pass rush either, because I think that's being underrated by Broncos country.
Yeah. So, okay, here's my thing with Okay, so one, I'd like to say that it is also possible that the Broncos have interviewed some guys that are just not reported because they're not part of another team. You don't have to ask permission. Like specifically like a Mike Zimmer. If the Broncos wanted to go interview a Mike Zimmer, they could. And I don't know, like there's nothing for me to say that he's even in contention to this point, but it's possible. Secondly, with Desai, I'm excited too. I do think so. As far as those fronts go, the one thing is that they get like the criticism is that they get ran on a lot based off the look they come out in is what I saw. Shout out to Robbie Davis. He's the guy that really put me onto that. Now, but that doesn't really, I don't know. I'm hoping he kind of learned from that. And it is also definitely something to be said with the point you said, Zach, where it was Pete Carroll was reportedly said he felt comfortable putting Bryant and Woolen out there because he trusted Desai to develop these guys. That's like a big deal. Like those guys weren't ready yet. Bryant was a higher drafted player than Woolen, and Woolen was terrific this year. Their secondary was good. I really think highly of Desai. I think that there's something to be said for compared to Flores. While I love Flores, with Desai, it's going to be a lot less of an adjustment for a team that's trying to win now. There's something to be said for that. And also, Desai just seems like a brainiac for everything you hear. Like everything you hear. So I'm excited about Desai. I think there are some concerns. It's similar to how I feel about O-line coach. Like there are concerns. I'm in wait and see mode, but I'm optimistic because of things I've heard. I really haven't done or been able to see a ton. You know, we have a one-time defensive coordinator and a guy that's been an assistant offensive line coach for 2 years. I am still in wait and see, but I am hopeful based off the things I've heard.
Great. I love it. Absolutely do. Zach, you were going to key something up for us before we started pivoting towards coordinators and new hires that we could expect here for the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton made some interesting comments in general today. I'd like you to play the audio you have queued up for the LTB community so we can discuss it. You got it?
Absolutely. Here we go.
30 seconds.
Coach, Russell Wilson had a personal coach.
On the 30 seconds.
Coach, Russell Wilson had a personal coach, Jake Heaps, in the building with access who wasn't on the staff.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that.
How do you feel about players having their own people off the staff in the building, access to the players?
Yeah, that's foreign to me. That's not going to take place here. I mean, I'm unfamiliar with it, but our staff will be here, our players will be here, and that'll be it.
Coach,
So as I spoke a little bit earlier today when we started the episode, one thing that stood out to me was Sean Payton letting it be known how he was going to run this team and how it was going to function under his watch, obviously alluding to there that there wasn't going to be any personal coaches out there at practice. It was going to be the staff outlined by Sean Payton himself. This is what I was specifically talking about because not only is he making sure that it is known where he stands with this team, Sean Payton is coming in with the authority and the ability to be authoritative over Russell Wilson, which I think is exactly the direction that the Broncos should have gone in, weren't able to, and now get to readjust. This shows me that they're willing to make the adjustment here. And I think Sean Payton's really the only coach that was going to be able to come in here and make this happen. So in some roundabout fashion, I'm glad it was him.
Yeah, these are the Sean Payton Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson is on the team, but these are the Sean Payton Denver Broncos. The Russell Wilson Denver Broncos were the 2022 Denver Broncos. Like if you are earmarking eras, you know, you've got the Peyton Manning era from 2012 to 2015. You've got the recycled quarterback era from, 2016 to 2020. You've got the Drew Lock era. I'd say 2020, 2021. And then, sorry, Jerry's face got me there. And then you've got, I think, the Russell Wilson era, which is just 2022. I think the Drew Lock era was longer than the Russell Wilson era. And I know, like, if we're specifically talking quarterback, obviously the Russell Wilson era lives on. But this is Sean Payton's team now. It'll be built in his image. You're going to get a 1-year trial with Russell Wilson, I think. And if it, isn't up to Sean Payton's standards, he's going to be cut free. I think the one thing that worries me is I believe in Sean Payton to maximize Case Keenum, the second best, only to Teddy Bridgewater of the post-Manning era. I think Sean Payton will get the most out of Russell Wilson, but that's almost concerning to me, because what if the best you get out of Russell Wilson is the 16th best quarterback in the NFL? And that's not good enough to be a true contender, but it might be good enough to make you go, 84 million in dead cap over 2 years. That sounds worse than having the 16th best quarterback making $50 million. So we'll keep going down this path. And I think that's how you get stuck in like the situation the Vikings are in now. Sorry, Colton Cooper. But the situation the Vikings are in now, where you're just kind of treading water with Kirk Cousins. You can be a really good team, but you might not ever reach that great peak.
Rick Mendoza had a question over on YouTube. I'll read it here for y'all. I found it interesting when the coach talked about Drew Brees being the conduit between Peyton and Russell Wilson. Do you think Brees could be a part of the coaching staff? QB coach, question mark.
I think he's with the Boilermakers, right? Right now he's with Purdue. I mean, possibly. Do I see it happening? Probably not. I don't think so. I think he's down to help with where he graduated and, where he's an alum over there. So I think that's a big move for him. I would say probably not. Maybe it's a possibility, but probably not. As far as the other question goes, do you guys think that, and I don't want to make this just like a slander Russ thing, but do you guys think that Peyton knows that Russ had an office? Or will that be news as well?
I assume he probably knew. I don't think that kind of information flies under the radar. I think that if you're taking the coaching position, you know exactly it's been widely reported that he had an office. So I don't think that it's information that like he wasn't aware of. I think that that's going to maybe end.
I wonder what they do with that office.
And I think he was plugged in enough. Like he was getting asked about it by Colin Cowherd and everything. Like I think he was aware. Maybe not explicitly, but he was being asked about the Broncos job and the Russell Wilson situation and the Nathaniel Hackett of it all. I'm sure, and being in the Fox studio every Sunday as they're talking football and spitting hot takes, I don't know. I find it a little hard to believe he was completely unaware that Russell Wilson had a private coaching team. I think just being like, no, I didn't know about that, but yeah, that's not going to be the way things are when I'm the coach. It just softens it. It gives him wiggle room. It's not outright, yeah, I know about that, and that's unacceptable, and we need, because then you're like coming down on the guy. This is like, oh, I didn't know that. That's not the way we do things. We're going to do things this way. And it also gives him some wiggle room to, if they find a middle ground, which I wouldn't expect, but if they do, and Russell Wilson's coaches are allowed in the building, and he's immediately asked, oh, why are they allowed in the building? He can go, yeah, I didn't fully understand that situation. I've talked with Russell about it. Now that I get a better understanding about it, I'm fine with him having his strength coaches in here. We've minimized some of their access, but yada, yada. I think it's possible he didn't know, but I think he's well aware of all that stuff personally.
That's interesting. I think I read it a little more harsh than that. Just like that,
I think it was harsh. I think that framing.
Because I think, Zach, that I think that it was just, if that was a conversation they had in the past, why wouldn't he just been like, Russ and I have had this conversation and we agree that it's not happening? Like that, I think that would have been the more appropriate response. I think the caught off guard thing.
Control.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I personally like it. I mean, he was like, this is foreign to me. I don't know about that. I like it. I think that this should be the Sean Payton brand Broncos. If he doesn't want to do that, they shouldn't do it. I like that he's coming in and taking control right off the bat. I don't mind it whatsoever. And yeah, I think Russell probably, I mean, maybe they find a middle ground. That's a really good possibility. But yeah, that's just kind of what I think right there.
I think we're all echoing the same sentiment that it's been a refreshing change. I like how Zach almost referred to Nathaniel Hackett as a verb. We've been Nathaniel Hackett. Thankfully, we weren't Nathaniel Hacketted today. We were able to see Sean Payton as a functional head coach through a presser that didn't make me cringe through my teeth. Mr. Boggins had a question, or not a question, a comment that got all of us and made us laugh. So he gets to be read here on the screen on the show over on YouTube. Join the chat and the discussion. Do you think we all should watch the home team for the first round of the draft this year, or should we just bring in Kevin James to announce our 3rd round pick? Congratulations, Boggins, that got us here in the chat, and you earned yourself a little read off there for your shenanigans. I surely do appreciate it. Might be something for you to watch while the first round is happening on a certain draft show from Frankie Abbott over at Frankie's Film. You can watch Frankie and Joey every single Thursday here for the Let's Talk Broncos network as they talk all things draft. Their next episode will be out this week on Thursday. Guys, are you looking forward, now that the coaching search is done, to get to talk a little more draft?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I don't know what Frankie and I are really going to talk about anymore. Like, come over there. Frankie and I are pivoting to the off-season show, I think is kind of what I want to do. We're going to be talking about free agents. We're going to be talking about all of that. Of course, still draft. Now, I just don't think people want to hear us talk about 3rd rounders like forever and ever and ever and ever. So we're going to be doing a little sprinkling, a little of everything in there. Next episode, safeties you can find in the 3rd round, guys. It's a need for the Broncos. So yes, I'm getting more excited for the draft. We were there last year. It was a blast. And the draft is always just the best. It's like my favorite thing.
You were so excited when the Bradley Chubb trade happened, and now you're once again having to pivot, being forced.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I was literally sitting there talking about like, oh, you know what? Like Bradley Chubb, I like, but at least we get a 1st round pick. Like I would love to talk about it. Like I want to do draft work this offseason. Yeah, I'll take Sean Payton though.
Let's make a whole show centered around it. And then Joey's like, Jesus Christ. Joey, did it drive you to pick up a nice, refreshing drink when you finally were over and said and done with losing all the picks in this draft?
I mean, it's ridiculous, guys. Like literally my name, right? At JR Drafts. No draft picks in the 1st or 2nd round. Last year, no 1st round draft pick. Like, what am I doing here? I feel like
you could tell me, you know what you are doing, Joey? You could tell me what's on draft. That's a little lesser known beer?
No, very well known in Germany. And the #1 wheat beer in America, German wheat beer in America. Unknown or little known, I don't know about. Weihenstephan is fantastic. It's a fantastic beer.
Put some respect on their name, Bree. Come on.
Zach is frozen, too.
Yeah, Zach's frozen, yelling at me. I'm laughing because I was trying to set Joey up, and he was just like not having it whatsoever. I made 3 separate references to beer. My nose is bleeding. I'm trying not to die. And Joey's like, yeah, it's really tough that we don't have any draft picks. We're just shuffling ourselves at this point. Joey, are you having one of their? It's a lager, isn't it?
It's a Hefeweiss beer. Really, really, really fantastic beer. And it's the oldest brewery in the world, literally. I've been there before, and it's really cool. They still have some of the stuff set up in there. I went to Germany Oktoberfest once, and it was a blast. And I got to go to the brewery, and it's just like it's cool that I get to, now do this on the show because it's actually a fantastic beer. I highly recommend it to everybody.
Absolutely. You have recommended it to me as well. Zach's in our private chat asking, am I still frozen? Sir, you never became unfrozen. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, he's back. There he is.
Yes.
We'll just rearrange our screens real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, you're moving. You're back. You made it. Did you go grab a nice cold frosty beverage? I can't. You know why I keep hesitating to say it? Because it's hard to say, but easy to drink.
There you go. Weihenstephan.
Jesus Christ. It's time for everybody's favorite time of the day. It's time for Joey's question of the day.
Let's go. Yes, sir.
You get the good one today.
Guys, now you guys were a little hesitant about the Sean Payton thing. A little bit. I felt it from both of you. I did.
You can't prove anything. I deleted everything.
Does On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about Peyton? What are we doing? On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about Sean Payton now?
Currently, as it stands today.
Yes.
Going into the
also,
2020.
1 out of 10.
Let's go. Give me your answers so I can highlight them. I'm going to say I'm a 7. I'm exactly where I was before the news. I was asked, I think on Broncos Country tonight, how excited I would be. I think I'm a 7, and I don't think I'm gonna come off of this 7.
I also 3.
In honor of Joey's question of the day, I'm going to say 39 for the number of hot dogs Joey Chestnut can eat in a minute.
All right. This is ridiculous.
Joey.
Okay. I'm going to give some rationale to my answer here. I mean, I don't know what we're doing.
I mean, that was a 10. I mean, I was having a little fun with it, but that's a 10.
I'm just joking. I'm messing with you.
I don't know why it keeps showing up. Like, we are not even going every single day this week. We now just do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday all together, and that's still too much.
Yeah.
This is the point that I'm at.
It's getting insane. I would go with a 9. Or actually, I'm going to go with an 8. Not a 9, because I'm still in wait and see on next year's Broncos. Very much so. Very, very much so. So while I'm super excited about Sean Payton and just generally, I don't know if he could just turn everything around in 1 year. And that's kind of holding my excitement back a little bit. You know, if it was like a 1 year, like, oh, we're amazing now, it would be a 10. I'm not all the way there on next year's Broncos being really amazing. I'm not.
I think that is exactly why. Ty Walden says a 5 right in the middle. He's even lower than I am, which is interesting. Cal's counting down 3, 2, and I'm waiting for the 1 to come through. I think I just ruined his joke for him. Boggins said, bro, Joey Chestnut could fit 39 dogs in his mouth at the same time. Put some respect on it. I don't know what that means, but
it's fair. His numbers are a lot better than 39. I had a feeling that's the case.
Well, that's all right. I don't think we need to get too studious on our stats about Joey Chestnut and his hot dog eating, because this is the Let's Talk Broncos instead of
Is that what we're asking for?
Let's talk. I do not want hot dog analytics. And I swear to God, if you send them to me, I will block you on every social media that exists.
Exactly.
Guys, what a fun show. My nose started bleeding. My eyes almost started bleeding. Let's talk about it. Where can everybody find all of your fantastic work?
Yes, everybody. Follow me at JR Drass. Follow me on JR Drass. Make sure you're checking out all my work on Mile High Sports, my writing. I did a offensive line coach piece like not too long ago. If you want to check that out, I thought the reception on it was pretty good, and I was excited about it. 1 article at least every 7 days is the goal. So the next one is going to be a piece on interior defensive line. So yeah. That's what I got going. Zach, where can they find your work, man?
Yeah, they can find it all over the place. Look at this cool thing. Whoa, that's why I froze earlier. I was trying to get that ready. It's going to be weirdly keyed out because I don't have a proper green screen. But Buffs coverage, all of it. Some Buffs coverage coming to the LTB channels on YouTube and Facebook. So if you like college football, college sports, or anything, just go over the better LTB, as I call it.
This is ridiculous.
Kidding, of course. But go over to the Let's Talk Broncos social medias, because that's where you're going to be able to find Let's Talk Buffs. I'm excited about that. I don't know. It's going to be my show. It's going to be a little more chaotic. Going to have all the stuff that Bree doesn't allow us to say on air. Excited about all that. Please go over to milehighsports.com. I've got tons of articles I'm really proud of over there covering the University of Colorado, all their sports, men's basketball, women's basketball, football. Those are the big 3 right now, but I'm going to be diving into more soon. Please be checking out Let's Talk Broncos. This is how I'm primarily engaging in Broncos coverage, and I love Broncos coverage a whole lot. So keep checking us out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Mountain. Joey's got you covered on draft stuff every Thursday. And then Let's Talk Buffs coming to another day of the week sometime soon, also probably at 6. Stay tuned.
I don't have to say anything. Just go follow me over on Twitter. Rick Mendoza said, we're done already. Yes, sir. Subscribe, put the notifications on, follow us on all of our socials, join the Discord. If you don't want to stop talking Broncos, you actually never really do. So if you want to join our Discord, make sure you go on over to, it's pinned, I think, over on our Twitter. It's linked, but we can drop the link as well. Again, really appreciate all of you so much for tuning in. You can catch me on the Fan Cave 1 to 2 p.m. for Mile High Sports Radio every single Monday. Go check out today's episode. It was a lot of fun. We will see you on Wednesday. Good night, Broncos country.